Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Pena.
I have a question for the city attorney. Recently we learned that the Police Oversight Board was going to be having a mayor's forum. And when I first heard about that, I didn't really think much of it. But then it was brought to my attention that the board had sent out letters on city letterhead to the candidates, and they're going to have the forum here in these chambers after a meeting on GovTV. And it just seems odd to me on several different levels, and I'm wondering, it might be appropriate, but I kind of just want to sort of, put it out there that, maybe we should have given some time to think about this and pass on it before, I guess it's supposed to happen Thursday. So I know these are very preliminary thoughts because I just dumped this in the city attorney's lap this afternoon, but Mr. Hernandez, do you have any thoughts on this?
Mr. President and Councilor Harris, I have started to look at this afternoon along with some of my staff, and several people raised concerns with my office about whether or not this was appropriate, and so we've started to look at that. A couple of the things that we are looking at: one, there's a specific ordinance that creates the Police Oversight Board and establishes its scope. So whether or not this goes beyond the scope of what they were created to do. Second, whether it is appropriate or not to use city resources, city facilities, city funds to conduct a forum like this that is political in nature. So those are a couple of the things that we are looking at. We are not finding examples of other city agencies engaging in this kind of activity, and it is important to keep in mind that even though the Police Oversight Board is independent from either the council or the administration, it's not independent from the city. It is still a city agency, and so that's what we're looking at very closely, is whether that would be appropriate for a city agency to be using its resources and time and staff to conduct something like that.
And thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And I have another concern, which is there may be members of the Police Oversight Board who might have certain opinions about the police oversight ordinance. And if these people are using their position to express to mayoral candidates and come down and ask them and try to put them on the record on what their ordinance should say when they're the body who's administering the ordinance, because reading what I can see online, haven't seen the letter, is that each mayoral candidate is going to get 5 minutes to speak, and then the Police Oversight Board can question each mayoral candidate for up to 5 minutes. It just seems like an odd, to me, a strange format also. So I don't know what the action item is at this point in time, because it is Thursday, I think, that this is going to happen, and I'm not sure if our city council, attorney and the city attorney can get with the attorney for the police oversight agency, the Civilian Police Oversight Agency, and ask, maybe we should think through this a little bit more, and maybe we should put this off until we had a chance to really sort through all these issues.
Mr. President and Councilor Harris, I have been in initial contact with the council for the Police Oversight Board, and they were starting to learn for the first time that there were concerns, and so I don't know if they realized that there would be concerns like this, and so now that they're aware of the concern, I know that we'll be able to have the discussion. I don't know what in the end they will decide to do, but I know that they were interested in understanding the concern, so I'll certainly be talking with him tomorrow.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
President, Councilor Harris, a gentleman by the name of Matt Jackson, who's an associate of Mark Baker, counsel for the CPOA, is here this evening, and he's glad to make himself available to answer some questions that you might have if that's something you'd want to do.
I guess maybe he could just tell us what he's thinking, if that's okay, if the other council president, Mr. Baker.
Mr. President and Councilor Harris, we only learned very recently about the concerns of the council. We only learned of those today. We had heard of other concerns, but also very recently those came to our attention over the weekend. We've looked at it in the limited time that we've had available to do so, and we have not found any reason why the forum should not go forward as noticed on the agenda for the Thursday meeting. The forum is within the scope of the ordinance for a number of reasons. One of those is that the board is charged with community outreach, and that involves getting information to the public about the issues that the board is charged to oversee. Another responsibility of the board is to promote accountability, and that includes finding out what the positions of the candidates are. One of those candidates will be the mayor, and accountability is promoted by knowing what the positions of the candidates are on the issues before the board. Now, finally, the board is required by the ordinance to have a general public comment at every meeting. So if the candidates were to simply show up and sign up, they would be free to offer their positions and then answer such questions as the board had for them. So that would also be within the scope of the ordinance. We've also looked at the ethics, the code of ethics in the city charter. We've looked at another ordinance that was drawn to our attention and a state statute that was drawn to our attention, and we just haven't found any obstacle to the forum going forward.
Councilor Jones and then Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir, for your response, but I have a question. It seems simple to me, but obviously it isn't, or we wouldn't have to ask it, would we? So you say your board members decided that they needed to have this forum because it was important for them to understand what the prospective mayoral candidates think about APD, crime, the APOA, and that type of thing, right?
Mr. President and Councilor Jones, that's correct.
So my question seems very simple. Why would they have a forum in front of their body when in fact they can go to any other forum just like the rest of us voter citizens do? And if they do think they need it for particular reasons, does that mean that they are going to ask these people questions that will then affect their vote for them as mayor? And if so, is that a little out of line to do in city chambers, to be setting up a meeting so that they can decide, and therefore by their comments maybe cause people to make a vote for a specific mayor? I mean, everyone has a right to vote the way they want, but I think we're going across the line a little bit here for a specific city-appointed board to be having a forum which they can conduct and direct the way it goes. Not a lawyer, but it doesn't seem right to me.
Councilor Gibson.
Mr. President, and
Go ahead and respond, and then we'll hear.
And Councilor Jones, people will make their decisions on their votes based on comments made in these chambers all the time. People may base their votes on comments made at this meeting. We can't control that. The benefit of having this as a forum is to have access not for the board, but for the public, which is ultimately where the responsibility of the POB flows to.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you. I beg to differ there. We do not at the City Council make direct comments about any candidate for any office. It is not our place to do that. It's the citizens to make a vote. I'm sorry, but what you said was definitely offline. So are you seeing that the POB won't get involved? They're not going to ask questions of these people, nor are they going to comment? Are you going to let citizens come to this and ask questions? And if so, why don't they simply go to the multitude of mayoral forums that are going on in the city?
Right.
Mr. President and Councilor Jones, I'm sorry if it would be more if it would be better for me to wait for Councilor Gibson, then I'll answer
here
both.
in just a second. I just wanted to let's finish that back.
I'm sorry, Councilor Jones. I may not have expressed myself as clearly as I had hoped. What I'm saying is not that comments made by the council members here are designed to influence the votes of their constituents, but the constituents do pay attention, and the constituents' vote may be influenced based on comments made here, even if those comments were not intended to influence the election. That's just how responsive democracy works.
I'm going to go ahead and let Councilor Gibson go ahead next.
I can't wait any longer. This seems like a crock of hooey. And what chutzpah the POB has. I can speak for two counselors now. I just took a poll, myself and the one sitting to my left. Neither one of us would even entertain the thought of doing something like that in this space. First of all, just for starters, never mind what we were just talking about. That's like in the region of noise. It's way beyond their scope of responsibility. They're all voting people. That's great. They want to be educated on the views and what's important to the candidates and what the candidates are saying. They should do exactly what Councilor Jones said, is go out and seek them out. Or they could go out together and have a forum. Do it in a church. Do it in a community center. But don't do it here. That's ridiculous. And the fact that you're trying to defend that, and now you're saying, oh, maybe we've looked at this and we've considered that, and they've thought about doing it this way, and we're talking about something that's 3 days away. It's ridiculous. And I really hope that saner minds prevail, and that does not happen, at least not in this chambers. Thank you.
Councilor Lewis, then Councilor Winter, and Councilor Davis.
Mr. President, and sir, I think I understand the reason why your board would want to have a forum like this. It might be the first time that a future mayor or a sitting mayor would ever even show up at your meeting. And I know that's something that your board, I think, deserves to have. And deserves to have that voice and the attention of the mayor of this city. And so I want to commend you on that. But I do have some concerns, and I think certainly this will be ultimately up to the city attorney with a lot to consider. Certainly about, just some questions about even, I think, in our ordinance about, campaigning on city property or in city facilities. Certainly how that might apply to a sitting, city councilor. And so I think those are all a lot of points. I think we brought up a lot of points tonight, or those probably nothing new that's already been raised, but I think those are valid. But I do want to just express to you that I understand absolutely why the board would want to have that type of a forum and attention, because you all deserve it.
Councilor Winter, then Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was one of the authors with Councilor Garduño on writing the POB ordinance. And we had a lot of public input on that and a lot of amendments from this body also, but it is not the intent of the Police Oversight Board to be anywhere near politics or be political. They are an independent body that is not political. This is a political body. And so for them to have a forum is not the intent of what the ordinance was supposed to spell out. And so if by reading the ordinance, if you're getting any possibility that should happen through the POB board, then we need to revisit the ordinance, because they are not a political body. They are an independent body. And so I just want you to take that message back, because I think at least a lot of these members on this council feel that it is inappropriate for them to do what they want to do regarding this, because in my opinion, it makes them political, and they should not be anywhere near the politics. Thank you.
Councilor Davis.
Yeah, I appreciate your advocating for your client here, and I understand that. And I can't add anything more than the councilors have added in any different way. But since we're too late for us to pass a resolution to say don't, or an amendment to the ordinance, I hope you'll pass along my vote as well. In my opinion, I think this is just a bad idea for all those reasons sorted, and I don't think we'll find a vote here that thinks that that's a good idea. And I hope you'll communicate that back to your clients to ask them to reconsider.
And I guess I'll weigh in since everybody else is. I also agree with Councilor Lewis that I trust the intent. I trust the intent of the Oversight Board. They do have a televised situation here. I do think they're treading on some difficult ground. So I would agree with my colleagues, but I do trust their intention as having been a good one, to want to focus attention of candidates on these issues that they're dealing with, that board is dealing with every day, and we need a focus of these candidates on that, very much so. I think our constituents, the number one issue clearly is policing and having good law enforcement, and we need it badly. And we are in the midst of a reform effort that has been a long time in coming, and I think the creation of this board was pretty well thought out too. And so I appreciate their service, but I think it's a little sticky ground here. Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am in full agreement with some of the comments that have been made by this council. I would hope that you would go back to your client and to the board saying that this is totally inappropriate. This is not the right venue for this type of forum. I have the utmost respect for members of the board. I think they've done an outstanding job in their work, but this is totally out of their scope. And I know that they're probably wanting to do this to inform the public. The public has every opportunity, as many of the members of this council have stated, to attend a forum and to talk about the issues regarding the police department and things that need to be changed or implemented within the department. But I just think that we are taking we're moving in the wrong direction by looking at doing this, and I would, ask you to go back to the chairman of the committee and ask that forum not be done, because I think this is an independent board, and politics should play no part with this organization and the work that we've done as a council. Like Councilor stated, when we formulated this ordinance, it took a long time to get this done. I think we took probably 12 months to get the ordinance formulated, and this was never discussed, having political forums in this venue here at City Hall and in these chambers.
Councilor Pena and then Councilor Harris.
I don't have too much more to add than what many of the councilors have added. I just don't really see this as a body acting politically. I think that whomever is the mayor of the city of Albuquerque, I think the citizens are going to rely on the POB to have a fair assessment and be able to work with whomever that candidate may be, and not for it to be political. Because suggesting that the POB would have a preference in a candidate, I think would be totally unfair and unfair to the citizens of Albuquerque. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I believe Councilor Harris declined to have any further comments, so thank you, sir.